What's up, dudes, dudettes? It's Tony, and it's time for another DAD Dudes After Dark show by the Garage Beer. We have an awesome guest here with us tonight. Phil Bladh, sound engineer. He's got Oscars. He's got all the cool stuff, man. Let's get into tonight's show right after this intro. Let's go.
Welcome to the Dude Network, where we chill and unwind. Food, sports, entertainment, the best of its kind. Grab your buddies, have a seat, let's have a good time. 4 nights a week, we'll make sure you feel just fine. Join us as we dive into the coolest trends. Dude Network, where the fun never ends. Dude Network, where the fun never ends. Hanging out with the dudes and dudettes. Talking about the things we love, no regrets. Tune in, relax, and let the good vibe flow. The Dude Network, the place to go.
Let's go. We got Damon back from
just when you thought you got rid of me.
Yeah, no, we can't get rid of things that you want to keep around. You know, you can't.
Hey,
she's back with.
I just want to say I've been dealing all week with this theory that's been tossed around that I was playing hooky and really was not sick the last weekend.
I don't want to.
I was sick. I was sick. I do it right now.
I floated the theory out there.
Okay, so you just kind of toss it out. Just kind of toss it and see who caught the hook.
Right. I wanted to see what news outlets would pick it up.
If that theory was true, I commended it. I was like, that's respect, man. I was
oh, dude,
he said I support it. When he said that, I was like, yes, Ferris Bueller's Day Off right there.
That's right. If you put the vehicle in reverse, you get less miles. It's just fact.
You got to be careful on that one.
Oh boy.
Oh man. But anyway, John Z helped line this one up here tonight. Really, really excited for this. You've done umpteen amount of movies, but the one that he's really been involved with that's really exciting is Sound of Metal, which seemed to be the one that kind of got all the prestigious awards, but it's a whole body of work to get into up to that level, to work on those kind of level of productions. So I think this can be really exciting, just a whole new deep dive of a world for us. And look at us, man. Dude's going to Hollywood. I mean, that's kind of I was not on the bingo card this year.
No trophies no more. Okay, grab a trophy.
But John, again, thanks for getting this one lined up here. I'm
really
excited.
Yeah.
Well, let's get down into it. Let's just get them in. So right out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, Oscar winner Phil Bladh. What's up, dude?
Everyone? Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me.
Beautiful beard, Bladh. Phil.
Yeah, I got kind of the up angle looking at it.
That's
that good.
Look at the girth of it. I mean, that's a privilege. That's a real privilege and an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about when did the career start in sound engineer world for you?
Oh, okay.
You're not like the full story. Like, how long have you been doing this?
Well, my first gig was 2009. That's what we call them, gigs. I went to audio school. I never went to film school. So I graduated in May of 2008. And they were like, congrats, this is the worst time ever to join this industry. Because it was during the recession, during the writer's strike, everything was shutting down.
Strike.
Yeah, that was the first writer's strike before the one that happened last year. That's when all episodes, or the season of The Office had 6 episodes, and then they all just kind of took a year off. That was when I graduated. So they're like, yeah, good luck.
It's funny, Phil, because I actually was supposed to graduate in 2009, and I could have anyway, but I would have to take and I was like, nah, it's a recession. It's not a good time to graduate. So I purposely don't tell my dad, but purposely went for one more semester. You know, you know, I was like, I'm not graduating right now because this is there's no jobs, like no jobs. So it was safer for me to stay in school. So yeah, it's funny we put out about that same time.
Yeah, it was rough, you know, but like I always tell people that being in the film industry is kind of like going to the DMV on a busy day and the line's like out the door and you pull in the parking lot and you're like, oh crap, I'm going to be here all day. So you can either get in line and wait your turn, you know, and then you get to the front and they're like, oh, well, you actually have to be in this line. And then you get in that line. And then they transfer you over here and you take a number and you sit in the chair. And then you get up to the front and the guy's like, well, you wanted to do this, but now you have to do these 3 things and come back another day. Like if you just persevere in the film industry and just keep going, it's really easy to get discouraged by something like, you know, a writer's strike. So what I did, I just applied to every internship I could get to try to get any kind of foot, you know, fingernail, whatever through the door.
Right.
So I ended up working for Chelsea Pictures as an intern. They're a company that makes commercials, and it had nothing to do with sound. And like I said, I never went to film industry. So when I first showed up on a film set as a production assistant, which is the guy who they give a walkie and say, stand over here and say rolling and cut, you know, and we'll pay you like $100 a day to work 15 hours.
True.
And I did that for a year on like various commercials around LA. And I just told everyone the whole time, I do sound. I want to do sound. I do sound. I went to audio school. I want to do sound. And one day, one of the PAs is like, I have an indie movie I'm shooting and you're hired. And I was like, great. So then I took out a loan, bought a bunch of sound gear, and was reading through the manual while I was shooting my first movie in 2009.
Awesome.
And kind of just kept going from there. It was a foolish thing to do.
I was like sitting trying to put a positive spin on it. And I was like, that seems like a ballsy move, but you know, good for you, man.
I mean, I had nothing else, you know, like it was kind of like this, or I was going to go work at Staples, you know.
But you know what, though? Like every good success story has that crossroad in life. Like, what choice do I make? Do I roll the dice and go for it, or do I play it safe and go work at Staples and hope for a better opportunity down the road?
You mean like healthcare? Yeah. I mean, and then like, I just kept going, and like, I was on Craigslist every couple hours. I figured out there's a couple of things. There's Mandy.com, which is like a website you pay like $12 a month to join, and they post jobs for like production people, like what I was doing. And then Craigslist, you know, every hour or two I would look, sound, oh, here's something, apply. You know, or there was Groovy or LinkedIn. Like sometimes they would have jobs posting and stuff too. This was kind of really before Facebook or anything took off. We were still using MySpace and stuff back then, you know.
Whoa, yeah.
It's like a caveman.
Yeah. That's Stone Age social media right there.
Yeah. So I mean, eventually what I did was I just worked on a bunch of stuff for no money, and then eventually the producers who I worked with eventually got better jobs, and they would hire me on those jobs. And I climbed the ladder that way, and then I eventually joined the union in LA. And then I did a couple union jobs, and then Sound of Metal was through one of those, like, you know, $500,000. We shot for 14 days with Tracy Letts on a movie. Do you guys know who Tracy Letts is? He's an actor slash playwright. He wrote August Osage County, and he wrote that William Friedkin movie with Ashley Judd in the hotel room called Bug.
Oh,
you guys ever see that?
Oh yeah,
and he wrote
wow,
Killer Joe, that kind of crazy Friedkin movie. He's a playwright who writes these really kind of
far out,
crazy, dark plays, and then he's like, you meet him on set, and he's just like your uncle. He's just like the nicest, professional. It's like, you wrote that. But I did movie with him, and I met Chris Stinson, Amy Green, Josh Gonzalez. They were the producers of that, and then they were in Boston like a year later shooting this low budget movie that they couldn't find a good sound mixer, so they sent me the script, said, would you like to work on this film called Sound of Metal? And as a person who went to audio school, I mean, I read it, it was almost like a horror movie to me. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what Sound of Metal is, it's about a metal drummer who loses his hearing. So
Right.
me as an audio engineer, losing my hearing is a big deal. I'm always trying to protect my hearing.
Right. That would be a.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. I remember that. I remember it getting like pushed around for people to see, and it was being brought up. And it was like I think it's from ESPN Cleveland. They always had like a RJ, the movie critic, come in. He would bring up all these movies that once a week he came in and talk about all the movies you were missing out, kind of like the Under the Radar. I mean, this thing got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I tell people, it's like I won the Oscar for Sound of Metal. Like, Sound of what? What? It's like Sound of Metal, nominated for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture. You're in the film industry. You should know this. It's like, never heard of it. It was like that black hole in the pandemic where like no one was paying attention to anything but not getting sick.
And it's crazy is because it was like that was when we had more time than ever to sit down and watch movies. Like, so it's even kind of crazier because that was when we watched the whole Game of Thrones start to finish during COVID. That was when Tiger King was out. Yeah, all the crazy shows.
I tried watching Game of Thrones. This is kind of a funny story. I worked on a movie with Jason Momoa, like way before, like when he was mostly known for Game of Thrones. I did this film with him called Bad Batch. Anyone ever heard of that movie?
Yes.
Check this out. Momoa, Jim Carrey, Keanu Reeves, all in a movie together that no one's ever seen.
That was I've never seen that one.
It's a post-apocalyptic romance movie. It's kind of.
Dude, there's so many weird random movies like that just most people have never ever heard of.
Right, and for me as a sound mixer too, working on this like Keanu Reeves Momoa movie, I'm like, this is gonna be huge. This is gonna be my big break, and then it just kind of gets swept under the rug.
Like the one movie Jim Carrey does that like nobody's like just has ears to the brain.
Well, it's not a comedy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's kind of like Kevin Costner when he did Mr. Brooks. Like, fantastic movie. But
I like that movie. I saw that movie in theaters.
Yeah, but Kevin Costner wasn't like this go-lucky, like
hero,
your dad type thing. Yeah, he was like a wild, super smart serial killer, and then Dane Cook was like just plugged in there real quick.
Hang on 1 second. Let me deal with the dog.
Okay. I thought he was going to grab like the Oscar.
No, he said it's at home in his parents' house.
Oh, that's right. He did say that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's in LA.
Womp womp. That's all right.
He ran upstairs. Maybe he'll be quiet.
Oh, I didn't even hear him. That was the thing.
Yeah, he was cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay, great. I got the dog filter on, I guess.
You're a pro like that. Getting rid of a dog barking. No, y'all would be shocked.
So Momoa, I was working with him. My ex and I, we started watching the Game of Thrones. I think it was like maybe season 2 or 3 had started. And we're like, let's go back and watch it from the beginning. And then we watched 2 or 3 episodes or something. And then I went out of town for 6 weeks to go make a movie. And I came back and my ex was like, I have a huge confession. I watched all the Game of Thrones.
Oh, no.
That's fine, whatever. So cut to like 2 years later, I'm working with Momoa and I'm telling him this story. And he goes, oh, cool. Well, how far did you get? I was like, I don't even know. And that show's so thick. It's like every episode is like feature length, right? Like it's epic on Epic. And he's like, well, what? Is my character alive or dead? I was like, you're alive. He's like, you did not get very far. Because apparently he dies on like episode 6
or
something.
Yeah, he dies season 1. It's like the end of the first season. Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, no, you didn't make it very far.
I guess I didn't either.
Yeah.
It's funny.
And sometimes I think about going back, but like I said, it's just way too thick. It's like, I don't know, man. And then
That's
everyone's
We'd
like,
never do that again. That was literally just perfect storm where we had the time. We had a newborn child. So we had like literally, I mean, I couldn't go. I worked on the road, and you couldn't go anywhere. So I was like stuck at home. She was stay at home. So yeah, we just had all this time. So she was into it. We don't like to watch a lot of stuff together. So we were like, hey, we're actually both into something. Let's just enjoy this run as long as they can take
yeah,
it.
I'm sure I would like it. It's just so much. I just did a movie with Peter Dinklage.
Oh,
He was in this thing called Lear Rex, which is this King Lear, this adaptation of Shakespeare's King Lear. It was
Okay.
Pacino played King Lear. He's 86
name
years
drop.
old.
On the board on the dude network. That's crazy.
Which is kind of funny because whenever we'd block it, and that's something you kind of do when you're on set, you get the actors out and you kind of block the scene as to where things would go, and then we do like a camera rehearsal. We get the cameras out, we do the camera moves and rehearse that. But Pacino would come out for the blocking, and he's like, I think the king would come in, and then he would sit here on this bench, and everyone would come to him, and then he would say his lines comfortably from the bench. And then he would get up and he'd stretch and he'd walk over to this bench over here and they would follow him because he's 86, he doesn't want to have to be standing on a
Right.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So when you watch
sense,
when you watch that movie, just look at all the times he's sitting down and be like, well, that's what happened. But it was fun. Bernard Rose was our director. He directed the Candyman in the 80s or 90s, I guess.
Don't say that name 3 times.
So it was kind of like a horror Shakespeare adaptation. It was pretty cool. It was fun. But I was talking to him because I did a movie with Pedro Pascal too recently. And there was this scene where he's talking about how he had the most violent death on the Game of Thrones. I was like, you did? He's like, have you not seen it? It's like, no. He's like, watch it. And like the Game of Thrones is like famous for people just having their heads lobbed off like at random points,
Yep.
But he claimed that he had the most violent death, or maybe it was like there was some poll where they said who had the most violent death, and he came out number 1 or something.
What?
Huh.
And I mentioned this to Peter Dinklage, and he was like, "Yeah, I think that's true." So let's agree.
I've heard, on the story, everyone says that Dinklage is a real good dude. But he's like really, really cool to be around. I don't know.
Yeah, he was there on set and he was pretty candid. He was just chatty. Not like Pacino, who would come out, he would do his thing, and he would disappear. I did get a picture with Pacino at the end, but I had to like chase him down the hallway and be like, "Hey, do you mind if I click, 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 click? Okay, we got it. Thanks." Dinklage was around like it was a convention. He was taking pictures with everyone. He signed a thing for me. It was nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, because we've had a lot of like barbecue people who have worked with like the TV personalities online on shows, and there's a saying that gets thrown around a lot is sometimes it's not awesome to meet your heroes. So it's nice to hear that there are some that and I'm sure that's happened to you. No names unless you want to, but yeah, I might don't want to upset the set.
I've definitely had some people who've been jerks. I mean, what my job is, right, is a production sound mixer. So essentially, it's like you have a cinematographer on set of a film. He's shooting the movie, right? He's the guy who has the camera in his hands and he's looking at the lighting scheme and what they're doing and how to adapt to how we're shooting and put a light here because the sun's over there, and picking the right size of the lens and that stuff. I mean, that's what a cinematographer does, right? He shoots the movie. So what I do, I'm the sound side of that. I'm on set, I'm observing how things are coming together, and I'm making decisions as to how to capture the audio on set. That doesn't necessarily mean the dialogue only. You want to capture kind of the world of the movie you're shooting. right? So Sound of Metal is a good example. Like, it's about a guy who's losing his hearing. So we put a bunch of mics around and planted mics on our actor or where he was to kind of capture the deaf audio of when he's losing his hearing on set so that we could, create kind of a soundscape. And then it goes to post production. And there are the people who smash watermelons with sledgehammers to make it sound like an explosion and stuff, right? Like,
Right.
that's what those guys do. What I do is I'm the guy who's on set and I record the initial sound, and then I hand the baton over to them and say, "Okay, I did the best I could. Good luck." Making it sound like Transformers. You know.
Mm.
Okay.
So I mean, that's essentially what I do. I work with the actors while we're shooting the movie. The actors, the directors, the
Okay.
cinematographer, everything. You ever see the
You're
making of a
doing all the
movie?
gear, like making it all hidden. You're doing all the mic
Correct.
stuff, all that.
Yeah, I mean, you see the making of a movie. This guy holding a boom mic, like.
Mhm.
Sometimes he's wearing bright pink shorts with no shirt on, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys know what I'm referencing? The
Yeah.
dude from Star Wars? Okay.
Is that you?
No, that's not me.
Oh, I was about to say.
I'm that guy's boss. I'm the head of that department.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes the cinematographer isn't necessarily the guy holding a camera. He's the guy behind the monitors watching and making sure everything is lit correctly and stuff.
Okay.
I'm the guy with the headphones on who's in front of a mixing board adjusting the dials. Sometimes you have a scene where an actor is soft, 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 loud, 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 soft, 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 loud, loud, loud. I mean, Pacino was like that all the time. He would just go off the rails and he would do this. So I'm the guy who's on the dial making sure that Pacino doesn't sound distorted. I mean, I guess that's essentially
It's a perfect way to explain it.
That is awesome, man. Jeez. For the one that's like the most that's been doing it the longest, it's funny.
He has an incredible voice. I mean, he really does. But every now and then, that's like his trademark, right?
Right.
He would do a take where he'd go full Pacino.
Yeah.
Oh God. So have you ever been on a set working mid film and you're like, man, this is going together really good, and then next thing you know, the whole rug of the whole operation gets yanked out from underneath you? Does that happen a lot out there all the time? I mean,
it's interesting, the perspective of when you're shooting a movie. It's like sometimes you read a script and you're like, someone said yes to this. I mean, and then you get on set and you're like, oh, I see. It's just a blueprint and they were all going to just create it. Or other times it's a really great script and you're on day 12 of a 35-day shoot and you're like, this is terrible. I mean, it's really hard to kind of, I mean, have you heard how people say, well, you really shoot your movie 3 times? It's like when you write the script and then when you shoot the movie and then when you get an editing, it's almost 3 different versions of
Right.
And that's kind of what it is. I mean, Sound of Metal was kind of like that. We did this thing on that because they've been trying to get the movie made for 10 years. So Darius Martyr, the writer director, and Nicholas Becker, the sound supervisor, who headed all the post sound, meaning after I did everything I did, it went to him and his team, and he was the head of that department.
Is it kind of like final mixing for music's kind of deal?
Yeah, music's part of it. They add the Foley, like I said, the guy with the sledgehammer and the watermelon.
Right, okay.
They do all kind of the scrutinizing what needs to be re-recorded.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a train over a line. They're like, oh, well, we didn't realize that was the take we wanted, so we got to get them back in here and we got to have them say hurrah or whatever.
Right. Okay.
These pretzels are making me thirsty. Whatever. Right. So that's kind of what post does. They take everything and scrutinize, just like what an editor does with what the cinematographer shot.
Right. Okay.
It's kind of a similar thing. They take the takes that work and they find a way to give it motion and energy and cut out the fat and make everything smooth and creatively tell the story, right? So Sound of Metal, what we did is that they wanted to do all these crazy sound things, like the boom mic. It's in this kind of Zeppelin looking thing on a pole.
Mhm.
They're like, let's fill that with cotton, so it's like a muffled mic sound. I'm like, sure, but we're not gonna have time. We're gonna have to shoot this movie. Sound of Metal we shot in 18 days, which is just quick. I mean, most movies are like 40, 50 days, I think is like a kind of like standard. We're shooting like a real film. Sound of Metal was cut in half and shot lickety split on film. I mean, our cinematographer, he just had a camera on his shoulders the entire time. There was no sticks. Like there was no dollies. It was just him with the camera. Because we didn't have time. We didn't have time to do anything very Finchery, like it was
Right.
just full
It's
on like scrappy indie filmmaking. I mean, sometimes we'd only do one take of something, and then Darius would be like, "Great, I got it. Let's move on." And then we would spend that time doing other things. Sometimes he'd want to do 6 or 7 takes. It
Mhm.
was his movie. It was his call, right? But
Mhm.
what I did as the production mixer, I was like, well, I'm going to take what you want, I'm going to streamline it. So I'm going to record all the high quality sound and the low quality sound of kind of like the perspective of what's going on in its mind at the same
Mhm.
time. So most of that kind of muffled audio was recorded on set. And that's why you
Okay.
have kind of that kind of life and vibrance to it, right?
Mhm.
Um, but that's not typically how it goes. Usually it's like these things are recorded separately. But since we did it that way, um, the script didn't say cut to what's happening inside his mind, and you just hear a, that's not how the script said it. So when they got into post and they cut the movie together, and then they turned that part of the story into almost like the main character of the film, even I was blown away because that's not how it was when we were shooting it.
Mhm.
and
They
that
kind of put it together in post, and they realized what they had, and they were like, let's turn this into that.
Right.
is that normal, or is that just like, I don't know, of all the movies? Is that, have you ever seen that go down like that again?
No, I mean, as a sound person, that's like I could live another 100 years and like never have another opportunity like that. I mean, and I
Wow.
mean the whole Oscar part of it too is like
Yeah,
crazy.
that's where I was going.
So that was my next question is how did that feel when you
I
guys
mean, it
just
was a
started
total
hearing
blindside. Like you think someday you'll work on like Avatar or Star Wars or Dune or something, and then you'll get an Oscar nomination.
right.
You don't get them for like $3 million movies where you record like muffled audio for
I,
18 days.
I have one question though for you. I need to make sure I didn't hear your speech, but did you thank Beyonce?
No.
Oh boy.
No, I
Oh
actually
boy.
got up on the mic and I said, I'd like to thank my boom operator." And then the next day on Jimmy Kimmel or something, they have these like unnecessary censorship. Have you ever seen that? And I was
No.
on that for a day, and it said, "I'd like to blank my boom operator."
I do remember that. Yeah, fill in the blank. Yeah, fill in the blank. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh,
I do
that's
So
remember that. I was
they bleep you at the wrong. They make it sound like you said something dirty, and I had one of
right.
those. And like one of the line producers I'd worked with years ago sent it to me. He's like, "This is the real celebrity justice."
Uh, so I wanted to ask about Geek USA. And you
Uh-huh.
actually helped write that movie, right?
I did. I mean, it's one of those things where a friend of mine, Brandon Walls. Hi, Brandon, if you're listening.
Hey, Brandon.
Um,
Hopefully, if not,
him and I, we were just friends, and he wanted to write a movie, and I was like, "Well, I have this thing that happened to me when I was in high school," and I told him it was kind of like the king of bad dates. I don't know if you guys ever just sat around and been like, "What was your worst date?" This was mine, and it went on and on and on. It was like an epic tale of just like my high school prom and just like the expectation of the girl who I went with who thought she was going to win prom queen and then she didn't, and it just destroyed her whole night slash life.
Oh boy.
So we wrote this script and then we got together, we maxed out our credit cards and we shot this film in 2013. It's based in the 90s when I went to high school, and it's just a bunch of just like I think we shot it over like a 12-day period. And we put it out in some festivals, and it was on Hulu for a year. And then our contract expired because nobody watched it. And then it just kind of turned into a, yeah, I have copies in my dad's basement if you'd like one.
That's, I just thought it was cool that I find all this so fascinating.
Yeah, the filmmaking part of it.
Just all of it.
All of it.
I mean, one of my favorite show of all time was Entourage, because I just love the story of this group of dudes just taking on Hollywood with nothing and turning it into this like awesome thing. And it felt like it kind of gave you like a rough idea behind the scenes of what it was like in these agents meetings and the courting and like the party life, the nightlife, kind of like the life of like an up and coming celebrity. And I just thought it was really fascinating. So I don't know how close that life is to how they depict it on camera to how it is, but it's always had my interest. So this conversation's definitely got me hooked.
Well, I mean, film work is work. Like, don't get me wrong, it is work.
Oh, I'm sure it.
And like we work minimum 12-hour days, which usually turn into 14-hour days.
Yeah, very quickly.
So yeah, so if you show up on set at 6 a.m. on a Monday, you probably won't even get home till like 8 or 9 p.m. And then you like take a shower, get in bed, take a nap, go back to work, and then you're kind of a slave to them for 6 to 8 weeks or whatever you're shooting a movie. But then you get to take time off in between gigs, so it's like you work, and then you take like a month or two off until the next thing comes off. I just finished a thing. I'm doing pickups on another thing. Pickups is like when a movie finished and then they come back and shoot a couple more days to like reshoot the ending. It's like they put on the wig that the guy shaved his head. Now it's all like weird looking and
Oh yeah.
that's what we're doing on a movie called Him is I guess what they take. It's like a Marlon Wayans horror film thing about a football player.
Okay.
And then I'm talking about shooting a movie, a Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie up in Santa Fe
Have
in
the
April.
Wayans ever done a horror movie before?
Have I ever done a horror movie?
No, the Wayans brothers ever done a horror movie? Scary movie now.
Yep. Well, that's
I mean, he was in it's Marlon's. He was in Requiem for a Dream, which is pretty
Good.
horrific.
That is brutal movie.
Oh, I forgot about that movie.
I remember I was like having some real, like going through some real like hard times, and then I saw Requiem for a Dream, and I walked out. I was like, I don't have any problems. I'm fine. I'm a baby.
Oh man, that is a rough one.
I'm like, my movie list is like growing, which has been, I'm glad because I have had a hard time finding movies to watch here lately.
Yeah, the nominations, I'm a part of the Academy now, so I get to vote for the Oscars. Hey, it's Oscar night right now. And like now they send me the screeners and I watch everything and I vote and I'm just like, wow, I remember when movies used to be awesome.
So it's not just me. Yeah, like it's Damon. You used to be, you're a movie watcher. You'll go watch a good movie if you want. Is that
every now and then? Every now and then. Yeah, you're right. It don't pique my interest like it used to.
And there's like 3, maybe 4 movies a year right now that I'm like really excited to watch. And
I remember the first year after Sound of Metal, I was really championing The Last Duel. You guys ever seen that Ridley Scott movie?
Mm-hmm.
So, The Last Duel, it's like the first movie written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck since like Good Will Hunting.
Oh shoot!
And it was like a medieval, kind of like a Rashomon. It's like this thing happens, and there's these 3 characters who have 3 different perspectives about it, about whose fault it was, and then at the end they're like, "Let's let God decide," and they just have this crazy duel, over who wins, and like. There's all these stakes. If like Matt Damon's married to this girl, and if he dies, then she's gonna get hung. So like then Adam Driver is the other guy, and if he dies, and this happens, like there's all these stakes. And I was like, wow, this is an amazing movie, and like it completely didn't make it do any business or anybody watch it or like it. So my tastes with what the Academy puts out are never quite the same.
I'm telling you, every time for the longest, when my dad and I, or how I based off what movies I wanted to see was whether the critics said it was good. If they said it was bad, I would go see it because I usually liked those movies.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
you
they're
go
like,
the
oh,
other
we
you
don't
go the
expect
other
this
way.
one
I
to be.
mean, look at like the 90s, you know, when like Titanic was competing against LA Confidential. You're like, wow, those two movies were like incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, as a person in the academy, I mean, I watch them all and I do my best, but typically I'm a little bit more excited about the things that aren't nominated.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's all. I think we're all three over here and underground guys. Like we like the stuff that's not cool. You know,
Yeah.
finding it before other people find it, and that's like a badge of honor. So yeah, the mainstream stuff. It's. I know for me personally, I like the movie Strange Brew. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Oh yeah, that
Boondock
definitely
Saints is like
missed
a
its opportunity to be Oscar nominated.
Mm-hmm.
but like, Boondock Saints, the original, that was a small budget film. Napoleon Dynamite was a small budget film that this
Oh
thrived.
yeah.
It's those movies to me are the ones that, because like, it had to be really special for it to get as big as it did with the amount of resources it had.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people like this year. Guy Pearce is nominated for The Brutalist. I don't know if you guys saw that 3 hour epic, but he's in it and he's good. And I did a movie with Guy last year,
Is
and
it
he
good?
was, yeah, I'd say it's one of the
Okay.
better movies out.
All right, writing it down.
There's kind of this shocking incident in the third act that kind of threw it off the rails for me. And if you see it, or if you just Wikipedia it after this, you'll find out what it is. It takes a dark turn in a cave, and after that, I was like, wait a minute, what is this? Where is this movie leading? Um, but I worked with Guy, and I liked him personally. I mean, we did this movie called Killing Faith together, and he was like so fun. Have you ever seen this movie called Ravenous that he was in the 90s?
I don't think
If
so.
you guys like horror, you should
I'm
watch
a big horror
Ravenous.
movie guy. I am a big pussycat when it comes to
Okay.
scary movies.
Well, this is a little bit different.
Hey,
That's awesome.
less of a man to everybody, I apologize, but I just can't do it. I've tried my whole life.
I just thought it was great how you just announced it. It was just perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be known. I have no
Some-
shame, but
Some things
continue
are
on,
for
Phil.
deathbed confessions, Tony.
If you know me though, I just don't. It's not my jam. Yeah.
I would say Ravenous is maybe more of a dark comedy horror. It's about this Civil War Guy Pearce. He plays this guy in the Civil War, and what he does is when he realizes his platoon or whatever it was in the Civil War is getting slaughtered, he just dives into a pile of bodies and hides there for a couple days. And while he's there, he gets stuck and trapped, and like all the blood of everybody like kind of just covers him, and he ends up drinking some of it, right? And then he realizes by drinking blood, he can have this superpower where, like, if he gets shot or killed or whatever, he can come back to life or regenerate or something.
Okay.
So he has like this knowledge of like, oh, if I drink a lot of blood, like a vampire or something, it gives him like this strength. And then he transferred and he's put in this situation where like stuff really hits the fan. Robert Carlyle plays the bad guy. They kind of go at it together because they both realize the same thing. So imagine someone getting just like shot up and almost dead, and he's like crawling, and like drinks a bunch of blood and like comes back to life, and like they keep going at it. This Western dark comedy horror thing with Guy Pearce from like the 90s.
Okay.
And I love this movie. I have a copy of this movie. And I was like, hey, Guy, does anyone ever ask you to sign Ravenous? Would you sign my copy of Ravenous? He's like, I live my life, and then sometimes some weirdo comes up to me and asks me about Ravenous. I'm like, oh. And apparently he just didn't like. Apparently they like switched directors halfway through, which I didn't know, and like the process of making the movie for him was not fun. He just like wanted to be over, and they did a bunch of reshoots, and then like they didn't like it, so they came back and changed the tone and all these different things. So like apparently for him, he did not enjoy making the movie, but he was gracious. He signed my copy, and he said, I'm glad you like the movie, So
Nice.
I saw Guy in The Brutalist, which he shot like 6 or 7 months before I worked with him, and I was like, he gets a nomination. Boom, Guy Pearce. Get to support someone who I like in real life. Not like we're friends or anything. We just work
Right.
together. And
Yeah, well, yeah, you can just professional acquaintances.
Is
Have
there
you-
anybody?
Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
Please,
Is
go
there,
ahead.
is there anybody that that you've worked with, that you've stayed long friends with, that you never thought in a million years you'd be friends with in that arena?
I mean, I don't really do that. Like when I was on, I've worked with Joaquin Phoenix on 2 movies, and
Uh-huh.
like I was on the van one day running to set, and someone said, I just texted Joaquin and he said this and this about that. He's so funny. And I was like, I don't even know how to ask Joaquin for his number. Would it be like, hey man, can I get your number? But I mean, just for the show, I'll erase it afterwards. I swear I won't like stay in touch with you or anything. Maybe I might need to like text you a note about something at some time, but like if you don't want to, it's totally fine. Like I totally understand. I know you're,
As a guy in-
texting other people on the crew, but like maybe you and I don't have the relationship. Like I would just like be so awkward.
Your anxiety is just
I
radiating.
love that.
As a guy in sales, that's job is to acquire cell phone numbers and emails to continue the prospecting process. It is definitely an art form to get the numbers without being obvious. But yeah, like it's tough.
He was happy when he showed up. I did this Ari. Do you guys know who Ari Aster is? He's a horror director. He made this movie called Hereditary and Midsummer. Either one? No. Okay. Well, I did his new movie that they filmed.
You probably were like these movie buffs. We're like, nope.
I did his new movie that he filmed here in New Mexico. I sound mixed it. That Joaquin was in, and Emma Stone. I mean, I've worked with Emma Stone 4 times. So her and I.
Okay.
Like when she showed up on set again and saw me, she gave me a hug and said, "I'm so glad you're here." So I mean, it's not like I have her personal email or anything.
No, but that's hella cool.
Yeah.
Like, oh, good, the good sound guy's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I try to dazzle people with my sound mixing abilities. I'm not gonna like, let's hang out.
Right. Well, I mean, that's your career, but I'm sure they've worked with people, that aren't as good, obviously, because I don't know. It just seems like that's
there's
cool
a
experience.
line there with a celebrity you don't want to cross, and when you're on set,
Absolutely.
it's cool, we're candid. I can talk to you about like, the movies I worked on, the movies you worked on. How was this, kind of thing. I really enjoyed that when you did that. We can talk about those kind of things. Sometimes they'll tell you fun stories about when they were making things, or you can poke or pose a question. It's like, oh, when you were working on Godzilla, was it a real monkey, or what would happen there? Like stuff that I'm like curious about. But like the thing about a celebrity is, they live so guarded, and they come to set to work, and you don't want to cross that line of where they think you want something from them, and you
That's
cross
probably
that line where
career
you're.
ender.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I whenever I get a signature or a picture of something from someone, I always ask, "Hey, would it be okay if I brought this in?" And 2 or 3 times, someone said, "No, I don't do that." It's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem."
Right.
I don't. I try not to make it a thing where they just have to.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Try not to fanboy out too much.
Yeah. Have you ever been on set where shit just hit the fan, where there's just knockdown, drag out, where two guys there's friction?
Oh yeah, there's definitely been screaming matches. I mean, that Christian Bale thing. Do you guys know about that? Where he started screaming on the set of Terminator Salvation. Did anyone hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that one.
I know the part where Tom Cruise went absolutely ballistic during a set. The meltdown went viral.
Oh, that was because of COVID protocols.
Yeah.
That was a really touchy time because like we all had to be like distanced from each other. I mean, the the film industry was like the worst case scenario for that kind of thing. It's a bunch of people coming from all different places that have to travel in like a closed environment, and we're all touching each other and like doing makeup and running mics down their shirts and all kinds of stuff, you know. But I mean, I've seen that happen, and like usually out of context, it's like pretty horrific looking. But I mean, film sets can get very heated over things. I mean, New Mexico now has an absolutely crazy, strict, no tolerance for anything when it comes to revolvers or guns on set because of that whole Alec Baldwin
Right.
Rust incident.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I've been on films where it's like we have 3 handguns, and like he'll walk through and like cycle the chambers and say there's no gun here, and he'll like get out his flashlight and he'll show that like the light is passing through the barrel, and like literally there's just a line of like 80 people and he just shows everybody. And then he goes and he's just like points the gun at the ground and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nothing's coming out, and this gun is never leaving my hand unless it goes in the actor's hand. As soon as the actors they say cut, everybody stops. Nobody moves. I walk over. I grab the gun. I put it back in this lock case. I push the thing down, and that's that. And there's absolutely no way. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if the sun's coming up and we have 5 shots to get while it's still dark. We're
Right.
not messing around with this.
That's smart.
Right. Absolutely.
So anytime I've seen anyone kind of like try to rush the process or break a protocol in any kind of way, everyone's just like, no. Like there's absolutely no tolerance for it, and every now and then you get a director or a cinematographer or something with somebody from out of town who's like, let's just shoot, it's fine.
Just like snapping fingers, right?
Yeah, and the only time I've seen things get a little heated is through the armor just putting his foot down, being like, nope, I'm not doing it unless we do it this way. But we already checked it, blah blah blah. He's like, nope. Because it's his life on it's everyone,
Right.
Yeah. The higher you up, the shit rolls uphill in those situations. It doesn't roll downhill.
Yeah, and he's got a huge responsibility. I was on a thing where an armorer showed up and he was told something that wasn't entirely true. He said there was 2 guns on set. He's like, I can do that on my own. But then like one gun, like we were in a parking structure and it was like a sniper on the structure and there's another guy down on the bottom on the concrete, 2 or 3 floors below. And he's like, nope, can't do it. We gotta call another armorer down here right now, or we can't shoot this scene because there's a gun up top and there's a gun on bottom. So as soon as they say cut, somebody needs to grab this gun and put them away. Like he's like, I can't get this gun, get in an elevator, go downstairs, grab that gun. Like it just doesn't.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. So I saw an armorer once just kind of put his foot down and say, we're doing it this way. We're not shooting the scene. Like I'm not doing it.
Man,
that's good though.
I mean, the times that the sound mixer, I've been like, why would we do it this way? I was recently on a set where, do you guys know what squibs are? They're like the blood and guts that they put on the actors.
Yeah.
We're doing this big long monologue where the character's on a phone, he's talking, and then he realizes he's being surrounded by cops and he pulls out his guns and they shoot him down, right? And I was like, okay, so we're taking the scene because I have, the $3,500 mic on this guy and he's about to have squibs blow up on him. So I was like, so we're taking the scene to the squib and then we're cutting. And they're like, no, we're doing it for real. And I was like, well, no, we can't. I mean, we got to do it separately. So I had to try to convince the director to do it my way. And then he was essentially like, nope, we're going to do it my way. And if it's a $3,500 cost, then I'm going to pay for it. I was like, okay. And then we got to the point, he was doing the dialogue. And then we got to the point where the squids were supposed to go off. And he's like, just take the mic. So they held for a second. I ran out there. I ripped the mic off the actor. And then they shot him and all the squibs and everything. So he had convinced himself it didn't matter. I'm just going to pay for the mic. And we realized at the last second that it was going to cost that much money. He got cold feet and was like, quick, take it.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden there, buddy, huh?
Yeah.
Talking all that big talk.
It was about to be destroyed, and then they'd have to go and like get them cleaned up, re-squib them, put another mic on them, and then we were potentially going to destroy another mic. It's just like, these things are not free, sir.
Right.
I mean, those are the kind of things that I've had to deal with. I had another thing like that, kind of where there's this big wide monologue, like a wide shot where we're seeing like everything. And it's this heist movie that I did like 10 years ago where they hid the money like at the bottom of a swimming pool or something in a white bag that blended in with the bottom of the thing. And they were supposed to talk and have this whole thing. It's revealed like, there it is, it's right there. And he like desperately jumps in to try to get the money. And I was like, so he's not going in the pool with his mic on, right? No, no. And then we get to the end of it, and sure enough, he jumped in the pool with his mic on. And I was like, you guys just destroyed a microphone that's, worth $3,000. I was like, what? I didn't know they were that much. It's like, we had this discussion. So these are kind of the things that I try to.
I just don't listen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of kind of that stuff when it comes to sound. They don't want to know about it or hear about it. They just want it to happen, and they want it to be perfect.
Right. We don't know how you work your magic. Just make it beautiful, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of my job, is to be a little bit of a ninja. I mean, I need a shirt that says like, 90% solving problems, 10% sound mixing, because that's essentially what I do.
You should make that shirt. You should make that shirt and bring it on, man.
My brother says that I should have a button that I wear all the time that says, ask me about my Oscar. Because he's like, this is going to come up every day for the rest of your life. I was like, no way. And it kind of does.
Nice.
Wow.
That's funny. Well, we're going to wrap this up here, Phil, but let's go around and get final question here from final thoughts, I guess, from the guys, and I'll wrap it up here last. John Z. Damon, what you guys got here for Phil?
No, first off, man, appreciate you coming through. One thing I was sitting there thinking of this whole thing, this sound guy, recording outside, how much of a obstacle is that versus inside of a studio area?
I mean, it's definitely like, what I explain to people is when you're in a studio, which is what I went to audio school, and like my whole thing was like controlled environment, getting the mic, tweaking it so much next to the snare drum to get it a little bit, tweak it this much, a little more. Here you go, you get right reverberation. I mean, that's what I studied. So you have like a controlled environment when you're doing production audio on a film set. You're trying to get good sound and just like chaos. It's like, so like guys like driving his dirt bike 100 feet away, and you're trying to get like a dialogue on an actor who's like whispering into the phone with an emotional like cry to his son, like, I'm so sorry, and then there's a guy over there, there's a dirt bike just
Right.
And you try to like explain this to them. It's like, can we just wait on the dirt bike? Is it possible? Because all I'm hearing is the dirt bike, and they're just like, I'll fix it in post. I'll figure it out. But yeah, it's definitely that. Okay. You're trying to find your battles. I was working with some students. I worked with the students at UNM, University of New Mexico. They have a film program, and I was volunteering some time last year when I was here for extended periods on my own during the strike. So I wasn't working. So I just went over there. I was like, hey, I'm an Oscar winner. Can I help? So I was talking to students, and they were doing like, they had like student shorts they were shooting, and I'd show up on set sometimes with some of my sound gear and let them use it and explain how it worked and stuff. And one of them told me, he's like, well, our professor says that the sound guy is the only guy on set who can yell cut besides the director. And I was like, no, he can't. No way. You would get fired.
I could only imagine.
He's like, well, if the sound is bad, then you're supposed to yell cut. I was like, first of all, the sound is always bad. I would yell cut for everything. I'm sorry. I heard someone whispering like over there. Like, I mean, you get background actors who are like sitting in a booth for 8 hours in the background. They're going to get bored and just be like, it's like, I'm sorry, I can hear you. This is an amplified mic, and I'm pointing it here at a very specific thing. So you can't even whisper. So just don't talk and look bored. Sorry, sir. That's your job. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely, you're right. It's a challenge to do it in a not entirely controlled environment.
Gotcha.
My final question is what advice would you give someone interested in this type of career?
You mean like filmmaking or sound? I mean, I guess
Sound,
they
no,
both kind of go
sound.
hand in hand. I
Sound,
mean,
production sound mixer.
so for production sound, it's a little different than like some other things because I have two things that I offer. First of all, it's my sound mixing abilities and problem solving, and on top of that, I almost become like a rental house where I own the sound gear that comes to set.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
I purchase, through a loan that I got with my dad, co-signed a loan for me in 2009 when I bought my gear. I purchase the gear and then I bring it to set and they pay me like a, fraction of a cost of what the rental would be to use it every day.
Right.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
So, I mean, with
Scared
as much
me.
money as I've spent on sound gear, I probably could have purchased a house, but I've actually just spent it all on sound gear. So, one of the things you need is some sort of capital to buy the gear and provide it. And then on top of that, there's times where, they like me and they like working with me, but they don't like me as much as they like my gear. Sometimes my sound gear gets paid more than I get per day. And it's like, come on, I'm a human being. You know? Like, I should get paid more than all of these electronics.
Right, right.
So the first thing you want to do is look if you want to do this long term, you want to get gear. And not only do you want to get gear, you want to get the best gear. You don't want to get, I mean, if you spend this much money on gear, that's like, okay, then you're going to need to spend this much money anyways, because you're going to have to be super competitive and be like, I come with all the gear, and yes, the gear is awesome, and I'm awesome, and I can use the awesome gear to make awesome
That's
sound.
right.
Right.
So that's one thing that I think most people don't quite understand. And then when you get hired, you say, sure, I'm, so many dollars an hour, and then the gear is this much money an hour. And then you get paid twice. So I mean, in the long run, it's worth it if you can get in there. One thing you can do too, if you want to do production sound, is you can kind of start at the bottom because sound teams come in three people. There's like the sound utility, who's the person who essentially pushes the carts and mics the actors and deals with like handing out the little thing that the director wears when, have you seen the director that have headphones
Oh,
on
yeah.
because they're listening to the audio? Those kind of things. And then there's also the boom operator who holds the mic and
Yep.
is on set. Or you can be like me, who's a sound mixer, who's the head of the department and owns all the gear. So you could kind of start your way by attaching yourself to a sound mixer and trying to be either his sound utility or boom op. And then you can start kind of learning how it works. And if you really want to be a sound mixer, the guy who I work with a lot here in New Mexico, his name's Trevor. Hi, Trevor, if you're listening.
Hi,
Yeah,
Trevor.
He went to
You
he
better
went to
be.
the UNM program that I volunteered at,
Oh,
and
sweet.
he was working during the pandemic as an office production assistant. He was just working in the office, and I was working on this TV show called Big Sky for ABC. They had fired their sound team, and they called me in and were like, "Can you cover?" And there's a guy here who wants to be a boom operator. Can you just use him for a couple days until you find someone for real? And then he became the guy who I used for the last couple of years, just waiting for an opportunity. And he wants to be a sound mixer. He wants to buy his own gear. And I keep telling him, I'm like, well, you're just wasting your time if you're not doing it. So he's been slowly trying to put together his gear.
Nice.
My sound utility, Emily. Hi, Emily, if you're
Hi,
listening.
Emily.
She's also putting together her kit now too. So it's like it's a process.
Right.
Nice.
No, I mean I couldn't imagine. My last question for you is, Phil, what's next? And what's 2025 looking like for you?
Like I said, I'm talking about doing this Joseph Gordon-Levitt film, written by the guy who made or wrote Black Swan. So he's like, he wrote an
shit.
Aronofsky movie. He's directing a film here in New Mexico. I'm in talks with them. There's a Terry Gilliam film coming to Albuquerque, who I sent my resume to. It's him and Johnny Depp. I think they filmed like 80% of it in Italy, and now they're gonna come and shoot like a couple weeks here.
Okay.
So
So
you're
I
gonna
mean that.
do the Italy part too, or just the New Mexico part?
No. My whole thing is I'm a local. So they hire me because I work. I mean, the thing when you bring someone in, it's like you have to hire them and pay their like union fee for transfers. You have to pay their per diem, their travel, their housing, all these additional costs, right? So films can save a lot of money by hiring someone who's like, I can leave my home, go work on the movie, come home and sleep in my own bed, and they don't have to have all those additional costs.
Right.
Gotcha.
So when a
Sounds like
big movie comes into town, I can like resume and be like, "Hey, I'm an Oscar winner. I'm here. Hire me."
You're like, beautiful.
That's right.
we happen to have a local Austin guy here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, that's what the thing about an Oscar. It's like the ultimate resume.
Right.
It's like, who's available? Well, Phil Bladh's here. Who's that? He's got an Oscar. Oh, let's see if he's available.
get that
That's the
guy
way
in
I
here.
see it happening in my head, anyway.
Right.
It's got to count. It's got to count. Well, Phil, again, thank you a million times here for joining us here and just shedding this. I know we only scratched the surface, man, but that's maybe down the road we'll be able to do another deep dive with you here on some other more focused topics of the industry.
Let it kind of marinate and come up with the next round of questions.
Yeah. But down the road, we'd love to get you back on and keep going down this rabbit hole of Hollywood because we don't know much about it. So it was cool. This is a really fascinating conversation. And
you guys, you should also listen to my band. I have a band in Albuquerque. We're called the Sandpaper Jacket.
Oh, okay. Now we're really talking here. You're talking
we have
about music.
We have some demos on SoundCloud. We've been playing some rap parties of movies we worked on. Sandpaper Jacket. It's an audio joke because sometimes you put a mic on an actor and their jackets are kind of sandpapery sounding. Yeah. So it's essentially 3 sound guys in New Mexico are all in a band with a sandpaper jacket.
That's awesome. I wrote it down. I can't wait to check it out. I'm excited. Everybody go check out the Sandpaper Jacket. Give them that a like and subscribe as well. Dudes and dudettes, thank you again so much to the Oscar winner, Phil Bladh. We'll see you next time, everybody. Tomorrow night, 9:00. Saturday night. What is that there? The after party.
Yeah. The after party,
Yeah, that too. Yeah. That's Phil. Phil by the book.